Discover the divine truth. Are wars part of God's plan? 12 incredible biblical insights revealed. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, as the anointed king of Israel, David found himself amidst great unrest. The tribes had finally united, yet their hearts held the lingering shadow of division. The dust from his crowning settled, revealing a land threatened by the encroaching Philistines, their armies amassing ominously within the valley of Rephaim. The elders of Israel murmured anxiously, pondering the portentous question, are wars part of God's divine plan? Seated aloft his newly claimed throne, David was acutely aware of the prophetic promise spoken over his lineage that the God of Israel vowed to bless and protect his people as they walked in obedience. With the weight of his calling pressing upon his shoulders, the echoes of his vulnerable youth howled between conviction and fear. Time and again, he had experienced the Lord's delivering hand, from the lion in the shadows of Bethlehem to the fateful encounter with the giant Goliath. Yet this battle loomed larger, the fate of an entire nation hung in the balance. In deep prayer, David humbly beseeched the Almighty. Lord, he whispered, seeking wisdom, guide us in this daunting hour. He longed for divine insight, mindful that might and artillery would never bring them true victory, but rather, the surety of God's favor. Emerging from his sacred solitude, reports of the Philistine encampment sent ripples of worry through his commanders, seasoned soldiers who had faced many a foe, their hearts trembled upon realizing the challenge that awaited. Take courage. David urged, recalling their shared faith. Can we not trust in our God who delivered us in times of dire distress? His words, laced with flames of fervor, sought to kindle a spirit of unity amongst them. They could relate to his earlier battles, where the Almighty had turned their weaknesses into triumphs. As twilight's curtain fell, leaving only the flickering stars above, David remained awake, longing for clarity amongst the tumult. Kneeling upon the cool earth, he implored the Lord for guidance. The answer was swift. The Lord instructed him to face the Philistines directly. Go forth, God decreed, and you shall have the victory. A profound sense of peace washed over David, assuring him that the battle was woven into the divine fabric of God's unfolding plan. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select All Notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. The dawn broke, casting rays upon David, who stood atop a hill, fortified by divine assurance. The Philistine ranks darkened the valley, marching like waves ready to drown out their hope. Heart racing, David brandished his sword, fortified not by mere steel, but by the promise of God. The battle cried out as Israel faced its fate. As swords clashed, divine interventions transpired, breathtaking and unexpected, echoing age-old eternal truths within the chaos. David's strength waxed and waned as he grappled with doubts amidst the clamor, yet through each pulse of the struggle, his spirit illuminated the understanding that obedience and faith encapsulated God's sovereignty even in chaos. Would promise unravel or flourish? The clash reverberated with a cosmic question as David believed he was not only leading men. A tapestry of faith and fear warred within the hearts of all. What lay ahead was marked with suspense, knowing the ultimate victory rested in the faithful hands of God. And so the battle raged fiercely in the vale of Rephaim, the air thick with dust and the clang of weapons as the Philistines advanced. David, fervent in spirit, called upon his men. For the Lord of hosts is with us. Let not your hearts be troubled, for we are his people. The rallying cry ignited a fervor among the warriors of Israel, each man standing resolute, emboldened by the promise that had been bestowed upon them. Amidst the chaos, David's heart beat in tandem with the unfolding fight. He recalled the words inscribed upon the psalms he composed in solitude, "The Lord is my light and my salvation, whom shall I fear?" His mind danced with the truth that with God, they could conquer giants, with armies reduced to whispers in the face of divine majesty. As the battle surged, he witnessed the hand of God moving mightily among his troops, confusing the enemy's ranks, causing them to falter. Then a commander from the tribe of Judah, his eyes aflame with fervor, approached David. "O king! The Lord has prevailed among us. The Philistines waver." David, sensing the Spirit's power, raised his sword high and cried out, "Then let us press on. For this day, our God will deliver them into our hands." With renewed vigor, the men surged forward, the strength of their hearts matched only by the unbreakable faith that coursed through their veins. Suddenly, as if orchestrated by heaven himself, a great clamor descended upon the Philistine forces. Confusion and fear spread like wildfire through their ranks, scattering their soldiers as leaves before a tempest. As sweat dripped from his brow and fatigue gnawed at his limbs, David fought valiantly, witnessing the victory unfold. Yet amidst the cries of triumph, an inner voice stirred within him, a prophetical whisper revealing that this battle was just the beginning of something far greater. "Shall I not be thy shield and deliver you from every enemy?" Echoed the thoughts of his forebears, resonating through the very fibers of his being. As the sun began to dip low, casting a golden hue over the battlefield, the Philistines, now utterly routed, retreated in disgrace, the remnants of their army spilling into the hills. David turned to behold the faces of his men, weary yet shining with the echo of divine intervention. The harmony of their breaths, the warmth of their brotherhood, echoed the covenant which bound them as children of the Most High. David, still holding his sword aloft, knelt upon the blood-soaked earth. Reverence filled his heart. He understood that this day was woven into an intricate divine tapestry of God's sovereign narrative. He lifted his voice in thanksgiving, "Blessed be the Lord, for he has shown his great mercy and delivered us from our foes." As the sounds of victory reverberated throughout the land, news of this divine encounter spread forth, and the hearts of the people resumed their faith in God. Yet, in the depths of David's spirit, questions lingered: what further trials were yet to come? And what was this victory leading toward in the unfolding of God's plan? The very heart of Israel pulsed with a power yet unknown, awash in a realization that the battles they faced were mere reflections of greater spiritual truths. For even now, the Lord extended whispers of the promise, "My covenant with you shall be everlasting, through you, the nations shall know my name." Thus, as the sun set with a glorious promise, anticipation filled the air. A revelation was approaching, for the sovereign scheme of God blossomed forth, propelling David to a destiny beyond the horizon. What further mysteries awaited in the unfolding saga of faith and obedience? Only the Almighty knew, and this knowledge beckoned to all who dared to believe. And it came to pass, after the victory over the Philistines, that David returned to the stronghold of Ziklag, and the hearts of the people were lifted with joy. They sang praises unto the Lord, recounting his mighty deeds in songs, saying, "The Lord has triumphed gloriously. The horse and its rider he has thrown into the sea." The rhythm of their worship filled the land as an echo of hope. Yet David, pondering the weight of his soul, withdrew to a quiet place, seeking the counsel of the Lord. The night was dark, yet the stars above shone like the promises of God, reminding him of his faithfulness. David arose and called for Abiathar the priest, saying, "Bring me the ephod." And Abiathar obeyed, bringing forth the sacred garment. David inquired of the Lord, "Shall I pursue this band of Philistines? Shall I overtake them?" And the voice of the Lord answered him, "Pursue. For you shall surely overtake them and rescue all." Strengthened by this divine direction, David gathered his men, and they set forth with hearts ablaze, sustained by the promise of victory. As they journeyed, they encountered an Egyptian servant in the field, weak and famished. David's heart was moved with compassion, and he commanded that he be given bread and water. After the man was revived, David questioned him, "To whom do you belong, and where are you from?" The Egyptian answered, "I am a servant to a Philistine, and we made a raid upon the Negev of Judah." David, recognizing the significance of the man's words, asked, "Can you lead me to this raid?" The servant, thankful for his life, replied, "If you swear to me by God that you will not kill me nor deliver me into the hands of my master, I will guide you." So David swore an oath, and the servant led them to the place where the Amalekites had spread out, rejoicing in the spoils of their victories. Seeing this sight, David's spirit ignited anew, for the promise God had spoken through the ephod was at hand. Soon, they fell upon the unsuspecting Amalekites like a fierce storm, fierce as the lion who protects his cubs. From the twilight of evening until the setting of the sun on the following day, the battle raged, and David and his men, with the strength of the Almighty, prevailed. None of the foes escaped, and every captive was restored. As they returned to their home, laden with spoils, the women and the children came forth, dancing and singing, "Blessed be our King. For the Lord has delivered our enemies into our hands." David rejoiced, but within him resided a humble understanding of God's sovereignty, recognizing how the proximity of despair had once threatened to overwhelm him. In that era, it came to pass that David sought to stand firm to the covenant of the Lord. He gathered the spoils of victory and sent gifts to the elders of Judah, saying, "Behold, a gift for you from the spoils taken from the enemies of the Lord." The unity restored among the tribes of Israel reflected a greater truth that the hand of God was guiding all toward redemption. Yet questions lingered in the quiet chambers of David's heart: what was the meaning of these victories? And what place did he hold in the eternal purposes of God? The visions of the night spoke of future battles, whispers of impending trials that would shape the destiny not only of David but of an entire nation. And as the shadows deepened upon the land, David stood resolute, for he knew that hidden in every trial was a revelation of divine grace. The Lord's voice beckoned forth once more, "I am preparing a way, David, through these struggles and victories alike, for I shall bring forth a kingdom that shall not end." Thus, as the dawn drew near, all awaited with bated breath the stage was set for the unfolding of God's matchless plan. What greater truths and divine revelations were yet to come? The mystery of his sovereign purposes loomed like the shadow of a mountain, vast and awe-inspiring. And it came to pass, in the days following the great deliverance, that David remained in Ziklag, and the people spoke much of the victories won. Yet within David's heart, a stirring grew, for he understood that the battles faced were but a shadow of greater conflicts to come. He gathered his warriors and addressed them, saying, "The Lord has granted us remarkable victories, but we must prepare ourselves, for there are trials that lie ahead. Let us not grow complacent in our triumphs, but rather seek the Lord earnestly, that we may know his ways." So David summoned the leaders of the tribes and urged them to convene. As they gathered, a great assembly formed, weapons gleaming in the morning sun, hearts echoing with faith. And they sought counsel together, asking the Lord for guidance once again. In those days, the Spirit of the Lord spoke through David, saying, "You are to arise and go to the city of Hebron, for there I shall establish you as king over Judah." The air grew thick with anticipation, and David's heart trembled at the depth of this calling. What lay beyond this obedience? With resolute faith, David took his men, and they journeyed to Hebron. When they arrived, the elders of Judah welcomed him, recognizing the anointing upon his life. They declared, "We will be your servants, for the Lord has chosen you to be captain over his people." Thus, David was anointed king over the tribe of Judah in Hebron, and all rejoiced in the fulfillment of God's promise. But as the joy of coronation washed over them, a storm brewed in the heart of Israel. For the house of Saul remained, and Abner, the captain of Saul's host, had made Ishbosheth, Saul's son, king over Israel. In this turmoil, the kingdom was divided, and fear gripped the land. David, now crowned in Hebron, sought the Lord once more, asking, "Shall I fight against the house of Saul? Will you deliver them into my hand?" The voice of the Lord answered him, "Go. For I will be with you, and you shall prevail against your enemies." Filled with a holy determination, David prepared his men for battle, trusting in God's promise of victory. As David established his kingdom, there arose conflict as Abner sought to secure Ishbosheth's rule. Battle ensued, as the two houses vied for supremacy, and in the horror of conflict, blood was shed, echoing the shadows of jealousy and strife. Amidst this chaos, David's heart grieved not just for the division, but for the bitter fruits of war. His lament was for the unity of Israel, once so cherished before the Lord, now unraveling in the throes of ambition and pride. Yet David remembered the words of the Lord, for within every conflict laid a divine purpose, hidden beneath the layers of human striving. These trials, he mused, are not without a reason. The Lord is weaving a tapestry of His will even in our darkest hours. Thus, the conflict deepened, but David stood firm, understanding that this war was part of a more profound design, a promise alluded to since the days of Abraham, to make a great nation through whom blessings would flow to the earth. And as the dust settled after battle, and the weight of all that had transpired filled the air, an unexpected messenger arrived, bringing news that echoed throughout the kingdom. David's gaze turned toward the horizon, for he sensed that the next chapter of God's plan was unfolding. "What is it, Lord?" he pondered. What further revelations lay in wait? Indeed, a grand narrative awaited, one that would reveal the essence of divine justice and mercy intertwined through every strife. The hearts of the people were turned, the stage was set, and the story was far from over. For the Lord spoke again to David, "Know this, my chosen one, the fullness of my covenant shall emerge through your lineage, for a king eternal will rise from your house, even amid tumult." Thus, uncertainty hung in the air as David sought the Lord, entrusting all outcomes to Him. What new revelations of His sovereign grace awaited? The vast unseen plan of God beckoned, shrouded by divine mystery. And it came to pass, after many days of strife, that the conflict between the house of David and the house of Saul reached a fevered pitch. The sound of the trumpets echoed across the hills, summoned to proclaim a season of reckoning. David, knowing the weight of the crown upon his brow, sought the counsel of the Lord with urgency at the altar of Hebron. "Lord," he prayed, "what shall I do in this time of trial? How long shall this division endure? I seek your wisdom to guide my path in this wilderness of bloodshed." The solitude of his heart was a refuge, and the Lord's voice pierced through the stillness, "Go unto the city of Gibeon, for there lies a great opportunity for reconciliation, though the path be fraught with peril." David gathered his mighty men, the valiant warriors who had fought at his side. "We shall venture forth to Gibeon," he declared, "for there is a chance that through conflict, we may yet find unity." The men raised their swords in agreement, and with hearts emboldened by their king's faith, they set forth. Meanwhile, in the quarters of Ishbosheth, Abner grew weary of the bloodshed that consumed his household. The meat of old grudges lay heavy upon him. Why must we continue this strife? He pondered, for the Lord has spoken to David, and the hearts of the people align with his reign. Thus, Abner resolved to seek peace, even if it meant crossing the lines of loyalty drawn by the blood of Saul. Upon their arrival at Gibeon, David and Abner met, each aware of the sacred nature of this encounter. Abner took upon himself the weight of the house of Saul to approach David, saying, "Let us cease this hostilities. I shall gather the elders of Israel unto thee, to acknowledge you as king over all Israel, for the Lord's hand is upon you." But the heart of the plan was tempered with distrust, and from the shadows came Joab, David's nephew, who had watched over the unfolding events with a jealous heart. "Would you trust Abner, knowing his allegiance lies within the house of Saul?" Joab questioned David, hidden motives brewing beneath the surface. Yet David, wise and discerning, was slow to anger. "If Abner seeks peace, let us not turn him away, for the Lord's purpose may yet unfold." And so, the tables were set for a feast of reconciliation, yet a darkness loomed. As the sun dipped below the horizon, illumination fell upon the choices made that day. A banquet was prepared, and the tribes gathered near to witness the potential for unity. Their hearts beat with anticipation. But amidst the revelry, accusation rose like a tide, and Joab, consumed by bitterness, struck Abner, as was foretold in the dark prophecies that accompanied the tale of Saul. In that moment, a silence hung in the air, fractured by the weight of blood spilled, a reminder that the line between victory and folly was razor-thin. David tore his garments in mourning upon hearing of Abner's death, exclaiming, "Shall one who died for peace be avenged? So long as I reign, let it be known that I bear no responsibility for this tragic end." His lament echoed in the hearts of Israel, amplifying the agony of division. As the funeral rites began, the people wept for Abner, their tears a subtle recognition that bloodshed begets more bloodshed. David, amidst the mourners, raised his heart in prayer, beseeching the Lord, "What, O God, is the lesson buried beneath this sorrow? How shall we restore what was lost? In the silence that followed, a divine whisper wrapped around David, full of mystery: the kingdom shall indeed be established through suffering, a truth most profound. For from your lineage shall rise the one who will bear the sins of many, and his reign shall usher in a new covenant. Thus, the chapter closed not with resolutions, but with a divine promise lingering in the air, drawing eyes toward a future yet unseen. What further truths lay within God's sovereign plan? What greater purposes would arise from the ashes of conflict? The story was far from over, and David stood on the precipice of divine revelation, waiting for the next thread of God's weaving to be revealed. And it came to pass, after the tears of sorrow dried upon the faces of the people, that the words of David reached the ears of all Israel. Shall we continue to mourn for the one whom I did not slay, even as the blood of righteousness flows unavenged? Thus David sent forth a proclamation in the land, declaring the weight of grief and the necessity for unity. His voice, firm yet gentle, called upon the tribes. Let us not dwell in darkness but walk toward the dawn of reconciliation. In the days that followed, David sought the counsel of his faithful servant, Abiathar the priest. What shall I do now, that the son of Saul lies in the ground, and my heart is heavy for the bloodshed? Abiathar, wise and filled with the Spirit of the Lord, replied, You must seek out the hearts of those who remain loyal to the house of Saul. For there are many who mourn Abner, and fear may keep them estranged from you. And so, David called for the men of Judah to come unto him, and he spake unto them saying, Will you acknowledge me as king over all Israel? For it is time that we arise in unity and serve the Lord with one heart. Yet in the land, skepticism still lingered, and the house of Saul held tight its remnants, led by Ishbosheth, who remained ensnared in fear's dark grasp. As the sun set low upon Gibeon, it shone upon David's wise countenance, illuminating the path ahead. I will send forth messengers unto the elders of Israel, he resolved, that they may gather before me and know that alliance springs forth from peace, not blood. The messengers journeyed swiftly, traversing the hills and valleys, and they brought word unto the nation, The time has come to bring forth the kingdom of David. Let us join together, for our God is a God of restoration. And slowly, the hearts of the elders stirred, like dry bones receiving breath, and they began to respond to the call. But lo, within the shadows of the palace came a fierce contention as Abner's death stirred a tempest within the heart of Joab. His enmity was rooted deep, and he met with the leaders of Judah, urging them, Will you trust this David who walks hand in hand with betrayal? Our grief calls for vengeance, not unity. And David, knowing not the plotting of Joab, gathered men across the land, seeking a counsel at Hebron. As they came forth, he presented himself, his eyes aflame with purpose. Shall Israel be divided? Behold, let us together declare our allegiance to righteousness, that our children may not inherit the weary legacy of hatred. As days turned into weeks, a great assembly was called at Hebron, where the tribes converged, much like the clouds gathering for a great storm. Boldly, David stood and recalled the words of the Lord, I have called you by my name, you are mine. From his lips flowed declarations of mercy and justice, igniting the spirits of the people. At that moment, a voice arose from among the crowd, an elder whose heart trembled with truth, David, shall we establish a covenant, binding us as one? For we are weary of division. And the proposal echoed through the assembly, children of Israel daring to hope that peace may soon reign. And so a covenant was forged, united in a bond of faith before the altar of God, sealing their promise with oaths under the watchful eyes of heaven. Yet as they rejoiced in newfound unity, a chill wind passed through the gathering, whispering of shadows yet to come, for not all hearts within the kingdom sought peace. The Lord's voice came again to David, amidst the festivity and joy declaring, Though you walk through the valley of conflict, know that I am your fortress and ever-present help in times of trouble. For from this unsteady ground, the plans of the Most High shall not be thwarted. What you see before you is but the beginning of restoration, the true covenant is still to be revealed through the one who bears the weight of the world. Thus, as the people celebrated under the flickering stars, a divine mystery lingered in the air, stirring their hearts to seek the unfolding of God's greater plan. What would this mean for the lineage of David? What were the depths of the covenant that was yet to come? The tapestry of destiny hung upon the loom of eternity, waiting to be woven into the hearts of all who dared to believe. And it came to pass, when the celebration at Hebron had faded into the quiet of night, that David rose early to seek the face of the Lord. In the silence of dawn, with the stars retreating and the first light stretching across the hills, he prayed fervently, O Lord God of Israel, guide me in this fragile time. The hearts of the people are swollen with hope, yet dangers linger in the shadows. Speak, O Lord, for your servant listens. As the day unfolded, tidings came from the northern tribes. A messenger arrived, breathless and filled with urgency. Lo, David, the son of Saul, Ishbosheth, still reigns over Israel, he declared, his voice trembling with foreboding. But a whispering discontent stirs among the people. Abner, the commander, grows restless, wrestling with the loyalty that binds him. David's brow furrowed as he pondered the state of the kingdom. Bring forth Joab, he commanded, for he knew that the general's fiery spirit may either be a boon or a bane. Joab approached, his eyes veiled with vengeance and ambition. David, he began, charging with fervor, do not let these dealings of Ishbosheth and Abner go unanswered. They mock our unity, even as our enemies conspire against us. His heart burned with indignation for his fallen brother, Abner, and the expectation of justice quickened within him. Shall I, then, send men to seek out Ishbosheth? David replied, seeing the storm of Joab's heart. We are bound by covenant, and thus must we seek reconciliation rather than bloodshed. The Lord desires peace. But Joab, unwilling to relent, departed with a promise etched in his heart, I will do what my heart desires, for if they sow discord among us, they shall reap the whirlwind. Meanwhile, in the palace of Ishbosheth, Abner had grown discontent, feeling the weight of the people's unrest. He sought counsel from those loyal to him, revealing his thoughts, why should I remain faithful to a king who fears to act? The people cling to David, yearning for his light, while I remain in this shadow. Suddenly, a thought struck him, bold and audacious. I will turn to David. Perhaps he will see the worth of alliance rather than enmity. I will offer him the throne in humility. Thus, he set forth a plan to approach David, hoping to heal the breach that Joab sought to widen. As Abner journeyed to Hebron, news of his coming reached David. And the king spoke to his people, let us receive Abner, for our destiny lies not in division but in unity and strength. With the sound of earnest steps upon the sacred ground, Abner arrived, and David met him with grace. Abner, my brother, David greeted, his heart yearning for peace. I welcome you, not as an enemy but a fellow servant of Israel. Come, let us covenant together, that the people may find solace in our accord. But as their words wove a tapestry of hope, Joab returned, a darkness shadowing his countenance. What treachery is this? He spat, accusing David. You have welcomed a foe, the very one whose hand has shed blood among us. Will you have them dictate our future? David's heart grew heavy with Joab's accusation, yet he uttered softly, calm yourself, Joab. The Lord seeks restoration, and in him lies our future. And thus, the air crackled with tension, for while one sought unity, another longed for vengeance, as heavenly designs clashed amidst earthly strife. Yet in the stillness of heart, the Lord whispered yet again. Fear not, David, for the plans I have for you and your house shall come to fruition. The covenant you forged today holds the key to a greater prophecy. For from you, a light of the world shall arise, binding all things together. Thus, as the darkened waters of strife swirled around them, a deeper mystery awaited revelation. Would peace prevail, or would strife tear asunder the bonds they forged? The tapestry of God's sovereign plan began to unravel as they stood upon the precipice of destiny, and the question loomed what promise of divine unity awaited them on the horizon. And it came to pass that the two men stood before one another, their hearts heavy with the weight of their respective loyalties. Abner, sensing the undercurrents of unease, took a breath as if to anchor his resolve. David, he implored, I come not with sword, but with an offer of unity. The kingdom of Israel is torn, let us weave it anew in the fabric of friendship. Place your trust in me, and let us rally the people under one crown, the mantle of peace. David's spirit stirred within him as he considered Abner's words. Do you speak the truth, Abner? Can we bind ourselves in sincerity, when the blood of my brethren cries from the ground? I do, Abner returned swiftly. If the hearts of the people are lifted towards you, what remains but to seize the opportunity given unto us by the Lord? We can lead them out of this darkness into the sunlight of hope. Yet even as hope flared, the shadows of Joab loomed overhead. Do you see how he twists his words, David? Joab's voice cut through the air, sharp and unyielding. An ambush veiled in false promises. Whose servant do you truly wish to honor, this traitor or your own flesh and blood? The tension quivered, a taut string ready to snap. David looked upon Joab, the anguish within his loyal general evident upon his face. Joab, do not let your passions cloud your judgment. What if the Lord himself has sent Abner with purpose? A purpose? To destroy what remains of Saul's lineage. Joab pressed fervently. You risk the very essence of your reign. Then Abner turned, fire igniting in his eyes. I do not seek Saul's throne, Joab. The throne belongs to David by divine decree. And if I can bring peace among our tribes, why would you choose war? As their voices clashed, the burden of command weighed heavily upon David. His thoughts drifted into the silence of a cave, once a refuge from kingly woes. O Lord, he murmured within, what is your will in this matter? Grant me discernment beyond the flesh, a vision to see what is truly at stake. In that stillness, a light broke upon David's mind, and a thought was birthed. What if we were to bind ourselves in a covenant, not merely for these days but for generations to come? Something more profound than this present conflict. Abner, hearing the shift in David's tone, drew closer. Let it be so, David. Let us proclaim a covenant marked by the Lord's presence, among our people, that they may know peace. But Joab's eyes narrowed, caught between his loyalty to David and the shadows of betrayal. And what of my brother? What if this act releases a serpent among us? David raised his hand for silence, a calm resolve now in his heart. We shall not live by fear but by faith. The Lord has called us to be leaders of his people. Together, we shall overcome. For the first time, the weight of a hopeful vision surged forth, echoed by the murmurs of the people who had gathered, uncertain yet yearning for unity. Let us mark this day, David declared, his voice ringing clear. Let us write our covenant and call upon the name of the Lord, so that he may witness our pact and seal it with his truth. The crowd began to stir. An air of anticipation levied hope upon their hearts. The realm of Israel, once steeped in turmoil, began to twist towards a new destiny, yet the shadow of doubt still lingered. And as they penned their sacred bond, a new revelation was breathed forth into the air, for I, the Lord, declare unto you, David, that the echoes of this covenant extend beyond your reign. The very foundation of peace you speak of is but the surface of a greater truth. For from this union of hearts, even now, a king shall come whose reign will shake the nations. Thus, with hearts susceptible to change and ears attuned to divine whispers, they stood on the precipice of God's sovereign plan, awaiting the full revelation of his purpose, entangled in the threads of time yet to unfold. What could this promise mean? What majestic king awaited to rise from the covenant written in faith? And it came to pass that as David, Abner, and Joab stood amidst the gathering crowd, the writing of the covenant began. The elders of Israel, with their faces etched in lines of worry and hope, stepped forward to witness this pivotal moment in their history. Each stroke of the quill upon the parchment echoed with the gravity of their decision, as the promise of unity took physical form. David looked upon the faces of his people, recognizing the trepidation that hung like a morning mist. Hear me, O Israel! He proclaimed, his voice rising above the clamor. This day, we lay down our arms and take up the sword of peace, a peace that can only be forged through trust and commitment to one another. Yet, in the depths of the assembly, whispers slithered like serpents. How can we trust Abner? A voice emerged, cutting through the air with suspicion. He once served Saul, our enemy. David lifted his hand once more, quieting the murmuring. I understand your fears. But I urge you to look beyond what is past. The Lord has brought us to this moment, that we might not be defined by the sins of our past, but by the redemptive work He is doing among us. And as these words flowed, a breeze swept through the gathered multitude, carrying with it the scent of promise. Abner, emboldened by David's declaration, stepped forward. I swear before the Lord, my allegiance is to this covenant, to Israel, and to you, David, as king. As his voice resonated through the hearts of the people, David felt the Spirit of the Almighty move among them, weaving a tapestry of hope. Yet Joab lingered still, wrestling with his doubts. What assurance have we that Abner's intentions are true? He may wear the guise of a friend but harbor the heart of a wolf. David turned to Joab, his eyes steady yet compassionate. It is the Lord who sees into the heart of man. Shall we not allow him to judge the intentions of our hearts, inviting his design into our midst? Trust in him who has led us thus far. The crowd, stirred by the gravity of the moment, began to affirm the covenant. So be it, let peace reign. They echoed, raising their hands in unified affirmation. The sounds of agreement rippled through the assembly, striking chords of renewed faith. Then suddenly, the heavens shifted, as if alert to their commitment. A cloud darkened the sun, casting a brief shadow upon the proceedings. A voice, soft yet profound, rose above the murmurs, reverberating with divine authority. But know this, O Israel. This covenant is but the beginning, a commencement of a journey that shall encompass both heartache and triumph. David, sensing the weight of the voice, felt a shiver down his spine. What dost thou mean, O Lord? He cried out, his heart pounding as the crowd fell into a hushed silence, listening for the truth that lay ahead. From the lineage of this covenant shall arise the Son of David, whose reign shall echo into eternity. Yet, the path he walks is fraught with trials, for the ways of the Lord are not as man's ways. Understand, this peace is wrapped in sacrifice, and through the very blood spilled shall redemption flow. As this stark revelation hung in the air, every heart trembled with the realization that the hopes for peace were intertwined with the depths of suffering. The profound mystery of God's sovereign plan began to unfurl before them, like the first light of dawn after a long night. And so the people were left standing in silence, pondering the mingled feelings of hope and foreboding that coursed through their spirits. What would become of their new covenant? What awaited this newfound alliance among the tribes? The path of God's purpose loomed before them, a woven tapestry of faith interlaced with trials, just as it had been foretold. Thus began the unfolding of God's majestic design, a design not merely for David's reign, but for the ages to come, an enduring promise that beckoned them all toward a future only He could fully reveal. And it came to pass that in the days following the covenant at Hebron, the realization of the Lord's sovereign plan intensified in the heart of David. As the people gathered, united at last by a bond of peace, there lingered a divine anticipation coursing through the land of Israel. The weight of prophecy settled upon David like a mantle, each moment pregnant with promise. David, drawing strength from the unity forged in faith, sought the Lord continually, whispering prayers that echoed through the heavens. O Lord, I stand before you, humbled by your grace. You have entrusted me with this kingdom, but I tremble at the responsibility it bears. Speak to me, that I may lead your people according to your heart. And in the whispers of the night, the voice of God answered, David, know that I have chosen you, and from your line shall spring forth a king eternal who will reign forever. Through trials and triumphs, you are part of my great tapestry, trust in my plan and the journey that lies ahead. David's heart, ignited by a newfound fervor, arose early each day to seek the face of the Lord, ensuring the kingdom reflected his righteousness and justice. Amidst this fervor, he called for the Ark of the Covenant, desiring to reclaim it and restore true worship among the people of Israel. Let us summon the Ark, for it represents the promises of God and His presence among us, he declared, rallying the tribes to a common purpose. Thus, as the people gathered from far and wide, excitement rippled through every heart. With joyous voices, they sang praises unto the Lord, their hopes entwined with the desire for divine communion. As they journeyed towards the city of Jerusalem, David led, dancing before the Lord with all his might, unashamed in the fervor of worship. Yet not all rejoiced along the way. Michal, daughter of Saul, witnessed David's exuberance with disdain, her heart filled with contempt. "What is this spectacle?" she scoffed, veiled in bitterness towards a man she saw as unworthy. "You dance like a common man." David, undeterred, raised his hands in worship, laughing joyfully in response. "It is before the Lord I dance, for he has chosen me over your father and lifted me from the pasture to shepherd his people." His heart soared, knowing that every act of worship brought glory to the God who delivered them. As the ark reached Jerusalem, a holy hush enveloped the city. David placed it within the tent he had pitched, proclaiming, "Here, let the presence of the Lord dwell among his people." The joy was palpable, the people thronged the streets, expressing their gratitude through offerings, elevating their voices in songs that echoed through the skies. In this moment of profound worship, the very fabric of Israel united under the banner of God's promise. As the hearts of the people stirred with anticipation, David's spirit swelled with the vision of what was yet to come. He understood that this act of reverence was the precursor to a divine revelation, one of greater significance than the battles won or the king's crowned. And as the years unfurled, David witnessed the covenant deepening, the people thriving under the loving governance of a king attuned to God's heart. Yet, in the corners of David's soul, lingering questions remained: what challenges must we face? Will the unity we cherish withstand the tests of time? The answer would soon be made manifest. Trials, like shadows, approached, revealing the truth of the covenant spoken to David from the dawn of his reign. For even among the auroras of joy, the enemy lurked, deceitful and cunning, ready to divide what God had brought together. But in the call of David, the Lord anchored the people, declaring through trials, "Fear not, for I am with you. Just as I was with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, I will not forsake you. My covenant remains steadfast." As discord emerged in the horizon, David knelt in prayer, pouring out his heart before the Almighty. "Strengthen us, O Lord, that we may walk unwavering in the face of adversity. Let your glory be revealed in the storm." The Lord, hearing his pleas, reaffirmed, "My purpose shall prevail, for through the lineage I have chosen, salvation shall spring forth, and all nations will be blessed through you." And thus, the stage was set for the great revelation, the intertwining of divine grace, human frailty, and a love that would endure through the ages. As the sun sank low, the promise of God hung in the air, a bright star whispering the hope of all creation. The unfolding story of David was merely a prologue to a narrative destined to encompass the hearts of many, a testament of God's loving redemption, reaching forth to every generation. Now, dear reader, as you witness the threads of this sacred narrative woven into the fabric of your own faith, understand the urgency to respond. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next powerful biblical stories, vital for nurturing your journey of faith. Leave a like now to help spread God's word through the algorithm, allowing the truth of His love to ripple across the world. Comment your spiritual reflections and how this biblical story impacted your faith. Your insights may be the encouragement someone else needs. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to hear God's truth, for this is the moment to help spread biblical truth. Don't wait even one more second to share this powerful testimony. Only true believers understand the importance of supporting biblical content to reach more souls for Christ. May our hearts beat in unison, echoing the love and promise of God.